Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tales from the Core. Our first live episode. I guess we are live because we got a like there, so good deal. This is our first time with this endeavor. We got the awesome fire team with us today that went to Peleliu. That'll be our recap for today. First, we have Ma'am Tracie Hunter, Emmy award-winning director, joining us. Who they heard Scott started off on Guam. We'll get into that. She did the recordings and everything. A lot of the stuff you guys have been seeing from Beyond the Call. So make sure to follow them and support them. We have Scott Gibson, Reg, the Canadian Island Crab Man, joining us from the Great White North, who was up in he was in the HBO miniseries The Pacific, portrayed Captain Andy Haldane. And then we have our 3-6 Lima brother, Sir Neal Fauver, on with us also. And two things before we dive into things. My 40th birthday is coming up next month. And I'll share some links and different things, but anybody that wants to do a donation or anything of that nature, we're going to be asking for the donations to go to Beyond the Call. The things that Tracie does and Scott has been there helping out with, taking Alan to Guam. Like I said, things we're going to get into when we kick off this call. Normandy trips, organizing trips for World War II veterans to go back to Pearl Harbor. Just incredible stuff. So want to drop that one out there. And then also everybody from the hurricane, especially those people up in North Carolina and Georgia, like Florida, that's the cost of living. Like, that's the price of admission to live in paradise. But, all those people, like, our thoughts and prayers are with them up in North Carolina. So with that said, welcome everybody. It's awesome to see your guys' faces live again after a couple weeks.
Welcome, Dirty Mike.
Yeah. Mike Francis, Dirty Mike.
Mike Francis, a.k.a. Dirty Mike.
Yeah. Which,
Mike, you went the whole trip in flip-flops and a cigar out of your mouth. It was pretty epic.
Yeah. And I had to make that known to quite a few people who viewed your aerial footage of us running across, the airfield there, that was being done in flip-flops with a cigar in my mouth. So, but also I'm 39. Fuck. Like, I'm not the 20-year-old kid that I was, when we were doing that stuff in Afghanistan and Iraq anymore. So
you represented Florida Man very well on Peleliu, man. That very well may have been their very first encounter with a Florida man.
What was great about that trip? I was thinking about it the past couple of days. So we talked about the four of us and the dynamic that we had. Scott, I got Freddie, Joe, and them really did a great job of just whipping you into officer form. Like, you were just the perfect typical officer when we were doing our patrols, and then Tracie was like the company gunny, right? Or the XO. We would have been living in caves if it wasn't for the organization. The only, if I could give a piece of feedback, Tracie, relying on the guy to take us to the airport in the Mr. Bean car, right?
That was on y'all, because that was the one decision I let the guys handle, and we barely made it there.
Drop the fender.
That guy looked like, you guys seen that movie Borat? Like, because I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and I'm like, the whole flight to Taiwan, I'm like, who is that guy? And then I remembered it's like the little short guy that goes to America with him. Like, that's exactly who that dude looked like. And we were in a car like the size of a Mini Cooper. And it was myself, Neal, Scott, and Tracie, the four of us in the back seat of this thing. About blew out the back tire. I had like an hour to get to the airport. It was quite the adventure.
And then halfway down the road, when the tire is about to blow, he goes, "Do you guys want to stop for ice cream?" And I'm like, "Mike's about to kill this guy."
Dude, your tire needs ice cream because that thing's about to overheat and pop.
It was an episode from Benny Hill, and that guy had no concern about his vehicle, if it was his vehicle. And the only other cab that we saw going the other way was his buddy that he flagged. What was it, Eddie?
Dennis.
Maybe. It was Dennis, yeah.
He's driving by. It was no honk or anything. He just, Dennis! Hey, Dennis! thankfully Dennis came back, but I mean, he hugged me at the end, right? You know, the people there are so beautiful. He's like, you know, give me the big hug, and everyone else was sweating. He wasn't, but I mean, he didn't give a rat's ass about that vehicle. He just
didn't.
No, it was beautiful.
Dennis, when we got to the airport, like I had already tipped him, so unless he was trying to get more, I don't know. Maybe I didn't tip him well, but you know, he thanked me for my service. You know, all the Marines, everybody that, you know, the ones 80 years before us, and he's like, you know, it's your turn to rest and enjoy life and let the new young generation do it. And I learned a lot about just how much the people of Peleliu and Palau in general, like even the lady at the counter when she was checking me in, I told her that I was in Peleliu. She's like, "Oh, you just missed this incredible guy named Dez." Yeah, like there's a lady at the airport, you know, and the connection to that island, and it was just such an incredible place, and we're really fortunate to experience it with you guys. So let's kick off Guam though. Let's start with that, because that was just the pictures and the video and the interviews of Alan, and that stuff was incredible.
Yeah, it was a trip of a lifetime, definitely for everybody. Al had been wanting to go back to Guam where he served for years, and it's a hard trip, you know, especially Al's 98. So doing that trip takes a lot of planning and everything, but we were able to pull it off, and kind of started to transpire in Honolulu, just the talks of going back and everything. And then Scott and I worked together to make it happen, and it was amazing.
Yeah, Scott, you got down there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many trips is that with Al? But met him in Normandy a couple of years ago briefly, and then to be with him in Hawaii last year for Pearl Week. Went to his birthday after that, January. Saw him for a roll call event in Fort Worth. And just to be with him back in Guam for the first time. I mean, he was just a kid going to Disney World. I mean, he just loving every minute of it. You know, and for him and a lot of these other events or trips, there's obviously more veterans that had, you know, served in combat. You know, Al didn't see combat. And I think part of that, in terms of being around these other guys, he felt not worthy of the appreciation he was getting, you know, in all these other places and events. And he ultimately finally did. You know, the last interview we did with him there, that was, I think, probably the last question I asked him, you know, if he felt that through that experience, you know, did he feel worthy? Did he feel different about himself and his role in the war? And he did, and he got quite choked up about that, and the whole experience. He was on his own, and he felt all that love and deserved every bit of it. And really, I think truly, if he could have a place and live there, he would, 100%. And Hawaii as well. I mean, he loves Hawaii, and I think he just wants to be close to Tracie, of course, and we can't blame him for that, ma'am, Tracie. But to be around and feel and experience that with someone like the other trips I've done with the vets, it's just incredible to experience that with the veteran, you know.
I think if I had one regret, it was not going that route, not going to Guam for at least a day. Yeah, I didn't need to be there the whole time. You guys had them like 3 days or something like that on Guam?
It was like 5.
5.
Yeah, 5 days.
Wow. The people there, I mean, the indigenous people, the Chamorro, so, you know, I mean, everyone was great and gracious, but the indigenous people, the Chamorro, you know, stories they told us, and, you know, going back to the war, and one of our guides from the Park Service, whose grandparents, it was either the grandfather's brother, I think it was the grandfather's brother, but the grandfather was going to be taken to a camp in the woods sorry, in the jungle, in the forest, and probably, you know, none of these guys returned who were taken into the forest by the Japanese. His brother said to, you know, you have a, I think he was maybe married at the time, or with his girlfriend, said, listen, I'm going to go in your place. You stay here. You stay here, and I'm going to go in your place, which he did, and he was killed by the Japanese. You know, maybe that girl is not there, you know, and it changed the dynamic of her family. The monument they had at the old Spanish fort on the hill, it's a monument dedicated to all the Chamorros that survived the war, which was just beautiful. And you know, she could point to relatives of hers. So that was really, really special.
Well, that's one of the things about these trips, right? Is there's, you know, there's films, there's miniseries, documentaries, there's interviews, books. But when you actually go to these places in person, you get to meet those people who, because everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And you get to experience that story. You know, just like some of the people that we met when we were in Palau and Peleliu. You get to hear the story and you take it even deeper at another level. And it just, you become that much more connected to it.
Yeah, I mean, Al was there. How long was Al on Guam and never saw 90% of the island? He was just where he was stationed, and that was it. Talked about, you know, a Japanese soldier that, you know, they try and steal clothes and get in the chow line. He may have experienced that. He wasn't near where they kept the prisoners. Like he just didn't see much. So for him to see the rest of the island, Orte Peninsula, where he came in, it was his first time seeing all that.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and again, I said it already, like, this is incredible that you guys take him on that trip. Like, it was just, I was on my way going through St. Louis and all of those things. And, you know, just, I just kept showing it to people, you know, like, yeah, you know, they're on Guam. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. This is who we're going to be meeting up with. And just watching like the smile, the uniform that you guys got for him. Like, man, like, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Tracie got that. Ma'am Tracie got that for him on his birthday last year, which he wore to the restaurant. I think he was a little hesitant to wear it, but just owned it when he did. And, you know, we took him to the meet the governor. Tracie had arranged that appointment with the governor, and we get there and they're rolling out the red carpet. And then, you know, the governor just not far into the conversation. Have you met the admiral? Or so there's two admirals stationed on Guam, and one of them was there at the time, and she phoned up his office and spoke to him, and just within minutes she's like, okay, the governor would love to meet Al. And so we were right up to his office, not on the base, but close by to where the governor was. And this admiral was like, you know, a little kid meeting his hockey legend hero, you know, talking to him, and, you know, getting his coin. And, you know, of course, when we went to the Navy base, and the CO there at the end of our meeting gives Al the coin. And of course, I think one or two other people had given Al a coin, and then the CO was like, well, you know, here's my coin, kind of thing. And then there's this pause, and Al goes, the admiral gave me his coin. which is a beautiful moment. Everyone laughed, but man, they did it up well for him, and Tracie arranged all of that.
It was wonderful though, just to, like, you know, we've done these trips before, we've done them stateside and overseas and everything, and sometimes they are hard to plan, but I had people that I didn't even know reaching out to me from Guam asking how to help, how to coordinate, what they could do for Al. When we got there, the Guam Visitors Bureau booked all our dinners like in advance for us and sent us to this beautiful like cultural show, and just everything they could to celebrate Al. It was overwhelming in the hospitality.
Sounds like you're listening to some Jay-Z over there. Some brothers in Paris. That's what it.
I'm in Hawaii, so we've got probably K-pop or something.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Yeah, he loved that cultural show, which was like the Guam equivalent of a luau. And he had his phone on the table. We had the VIP table right center stage, couple, at the back, and he just had his phone the whole time, and his jaws kind of dropping, and one of the girls got up on the table and was doing the dance in front of him, and he was just like, woo, bring it on.
We didn't have this 80 years ago.
Didn't have this. I don't get this in Normandy.
Right.
Nobody does.
Yeah, it was a beautiful trip, man. It was so great to see everything that you guys were sharing.
Well, that video that Tracie recently posted there of Al and Guam, I mean, it's where the reels played over 500 times. The comments are just, hey, is someone cutting onions? Like, I'm, the tears of people. It's so heartwarming, and that's Al. It's Tracie's beautiful work, and that's Al Chatwin.
I can't wait to see the full documentary. Like, it's just the little things that we experienced in person, the pictures, the videos, the clips, like all of that is just so amazing. And so to be able to see, maybe all of us are going to end up in LA for Tracie's second Emmy. Who knows? But it was incredible. It was really cool to get to experience that also. Kind of like I said, when we were on the island, Neal and I could have went, just a couple Marines by ourselves, and the two of you could have went and done your production. I think that there was a very unique dynamic, the four of us. And I really got to enjoy experiencing your guys' side of what you do. And then, I mean, I don't know how much you guys enjoyed the dehydration and humidity and the dirtiness and the backpacking things in. I know that wasn't Scott's favorite thing. Thankfully, we had Neal to be the pack mule.
Because I got picked up that bug in Guam. My ear is still, the left ear is still plugged. So I had fever the whole time, and feverish sleeps and a couple nightmares and the whole 9 yards. I mean, the adrenaline you're going on being there. And I had told people for years wanting to go, and then subsequently this trip and the lead up to it and everything is like, yeah, we're going to go. And, then you see some of the comments are like, holy shit, you actually went. Dude, you went to Peleliu. I messaged Badge and sent him pictures of the admin building in White Beach, and he's just like, that's insane. What's it like to be there? And I'm like, insane that you're actually there. So, I'm just so blessed and full of gratitude. But again, like, people just think, well, maybe you go, maybe you don't. It's like, no, we went, and that's a feat.
It was the journey getting there. I know, just like for Neal, because he hit me up when I was in LA. There was a storm coming up, and then it's like, okay, the storm isn't going to affect me. But then two planes ran into each other in Atlanta where he was flying to. It's like, okay, is that going to shut down the airport? But you're right. Didn't you get delayed a couple hours from Chicago to get to Honolulu? Like, it is a feat to get there.
Yeah. I went up a whole tier in United Travel. In my last little leg from Newark to Ottawa, I got business class. I'm thinking, why didn't I get bumped from Tokyo to Newark, because that's the softie that I am. But it is a feat to get. That's one of the things Tracie and I were talking about in terms of having the sand and selling bottles of that, and for what price in terms of bringing back more money into the charity. And she's saying, like, this is sand from Peleliu. You're not going to find this online. You can. She talked about finding sand from Normandy type. You ain't finding sand from Peleliu or Najibus or Jesus or however you want to pronounce Ngedbus. Like, where are you going to get sand like that, right? It's so remote.
Even just getting over there, which you could walk and wade over there, but our little boat ride.
Yeah. Ramsey.
Right. I mean, just, for those who don't know, because, there's so much that we didn't share. I mean, we didn't share 99% of what happened there, but we had to get onto this little boat, which was Neal's profile picture, the three of us in the front of that thing. And we had 4 people total, and we had to go just at high tide. And then remember when we were coming back, we could only be there for an hour and a half. And we're coming back, the prop hit sand. Like it was that shallow. It's either you wade across a couple hundred yards, or you just take this little boat with Rodney did everything. He was the boat captain. He gave me his motorcycle. Like, him and Cheerios were like, they were everywhere.
They were everywhere.
Everywhere we went.
Running the barbecue after the celebration. The lady who's the guide who came over to Najibas and late getting over there, and Craig or other guys like, well, she had a bit of a night last night. Yeah, okay, she's on island time, and then taking us back. The tide's going back out, and you can only 4 or 5 at a time in that boat, and she took us further into the jungle as opposed to just going around on the beach, and you're kind of going, where are we going? Like, there's no time, but to go over there and to see Sledge's bunker, that was pretty incredible.
Like, how many places on Earth are left where you can actually go and know that you're standing exactly where another human being, that you've read about? Because you can go to all these different battlefields, and I was telling my former platoon commander this. You can go to Gettysburg and these different battlefields, even Omaha Beach, and odds are someone was standing there where you were. But to actually the headquarters, for me, the headquarters, 140 obviously, and Sledge's bunker, like those were the 3, well, in the airfield, most probably impactful places to be. I mean, I guess they all were, because White Beach, Orange Beach, I guess, but when we were actually at the HQ and we're just, the 4 of us were just kind of standing there looking around, not taking pictures or recording at that point, thinking like, this is where Andy was, and Sledge and Snafu. Like, we are standing where they stood, where they walked. Like, we know that for a fact.
Yeah, and the Marines showed up. Of course, it was the band. And but only a Marine, that, like, both you and Neal, your perspective there, all your thoughts on being there, and seeing you guys relate to it all as Marines and guys who, overseas through combat zone, in combat. That was pretty special for us to see and hear your perspective on everything. But, that they all leave, and you're like, of course, it's the band that gets in the documentary. It's the infantry guys that are out doing something, and the band just rolls along, and they get the press. And I was howling at that one.
That's the Marine Corps, man. That's the Marine Corps summed up.
But so amazing that they did at that time, and we got Tracie got all those wonderful the photos and the video. Right, ma'am?
Yes. And I was going to ask you too, I expected you to get more emotional on Hill 140 than you did, but it wasn't really till you got on Orange Beach that things really started to hit you, Scott. Can you just share what you were feeling? Because I know you've wanted to do this for 17 years, and actually being there, just those emotions that you were feeling.
Yeah, I think I anticipated maybe feeling more about where he was felt. Not being exactly sure, even brought up there, if that was the actual spot. The actual spot didn't matter so much to me. The feelings I had, and I didn't have much to say, and that was the first day. But then to just go backwards to end up at the beach, and just that view, and how the serenity of it, the beauty of it, the feeling of the ocean breeze. Now I know no one rolling up on that island 80 years ago were thinking those things, but I began to think if Andy had survived and if he had gone back, if he was there, what he would think and feel, and just to imagine him standing there on that sand, having lived a life, and if he married kids, whatever he did in his life. And I just kind of started to see things in a weird kind of way through his eyes. And that was just such a beautiful image that it really, really hit me. And I was done. Like I told you guys, I'm done. I don't need to see anything else. I don't need to do anything else. That's I don't want to talk to anybody else or like interview, or I'm done. I'm done. And I really felt comfortable with that. But it did. I wasn't, maybe because I wasn't expecting it on the beach or thinking I'd see that first and work my way to 140. I'm glad it worked out that way. And we could have gone back to 140 with Steve Ballinger and Craig, and I was just like, no. And it wasn't an emotional thing. I just didn't want to go through that jungle again, with my fear and Neal not being able to carry my pack for me.
Yeah, pack mule.
Yeah, I was talking with my old platoon sergeant who got out as he was with 7th Marines when he first got in. They did Okinawa, and he was like, yeah, man, doing that triple canopy, just being in that jungle, that humidity, the way it zaps you, and Florida has humidity. I thought I'd be prepared for it, but that stuff broke me off, man. I was, not prepared. And I tell people, it's not like we were going up and down hills, like that path that Chamorro wanted to take home. It was like, he's like, oh, there's like steps here. I'm like, bro, that's a cliff. Like, that's just a straight down cliff. Like, yes, there's steps to put your feet, but one slip from any person, and we're in the middle of this thing trying to find our way out. Like, it's not good sense. I didn't want to go back either, man. That was tough,
No.
dude.
No, I mean,
you wore the humidity. You wore it. I swear it was like it was draped on you, man.
I think if they torched the whole canopy, like it was burnt, smoked, and none of that was there, then maybe like that in the jungle there, and speaking to you guys about it, but other people, just how small it is when you're up there, right? And
yeah,
the ridges, the hills, you think of the Horseshoe Valley there, and it's like, damn, that's not very big.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It looks bigger in film when you see it. Right. Then you're actually there and the canopy's there and it's all overgrown and it feels so small. And the cave system, get into talking about that. I mean, it's like the Japanese almost, well, kind of in a way had it easier. It was so cool and dry in the caves, so they could be there all day and then attack at night at will. I mean, I know they were bombed out and fleshed out and everything else, but to that type of warfare, and how you guys might have felt about it. But I just thought, my God, what insanity, what just absolute horror and mayhem of you clear some area and then it's guy pops out of a cave over here and shoots a couple of your buddies and pops back in and you got to do that for 30-40 days kind of thing. Like
the thing about urban warfare, when you're going through a city, we've all been in cities, you have city blocks, there's buildings, there's an entrance to this building, there's windows, there's a rooftop, right? There's X amount of places for people to be, and you kind of know where to look for them for the most part. When we were there, I mean, just your jungle or not, when you're standing in the middle of that stuff, you get disoriented, which way is north, west, like, where's what? And then like you said, people can just pop out of caves. Like for all you know, you could set in a perimeter and the caves inside that perimeter at night. Like, because oftentimes I would wonder, because, you know, we're Marines are so damn good at what we do. And I'm thinking, like, how did people sneak up on them in the middle of the night? Like, we are really, really good at setting in a defense and setting a perimeter. And I don't know if, like, you had the same perspective when we were there, Neal, but it's like, it becomes more apparent. Like, yeah, the dude, like, there could have been a hole behind me that opens up and just we missed it. We didn't even know because it's so chaotic. There's just chaos there in the landscape.
Well, like, you know, like I think it was Bill Layden. He described it in one word perfectly. He said congestion, and like you see all the aerial maps of Peleliu and just how small it is, and then you see the ridge system, and that's even smaller than that. And it's like, all right, you get an idea. I know it's going to be small. But dude, nothing at all prepared me for just how just compact it was. And it was just jagged, razor sharp coral cliff faces and utter confusion. Like you said, you get disoriented, man, very easily. And I got to thinking, like, the first thing I thought of was, how in the hell would we approach this? You know, like today or whatever. Like, how do we do that? How would we approach this? There's like no, I don't know. Is there a doctrine for something like that? I don't think you could train for something like that. The terrain that's like that, man. I mean, it's just unpredictable, and it's jagged, it's sharp, there's no real easy footing anywhere. You know, it's like, and then on top of that, you got the majority of 11,000 people trying to kill you, you know, in that tiny little just mass of coral rock. Just insane, man.
And
looking at it.
I just read about the Marine Corps changing or adapting their marksmanship training to urban warfare as opposed to the last 80 years of, okay, you know, you get the 2 weeks, I guess, in your boot camp, you know, either Paris Island or Pendleton, and you start at 500 yards and then to 2 and 1 kind of thing. Well, they're reversing it. So it's 15 yards, 25 yards, 50, 100, 2, 5. And of course, those guys didn't have any of that training. They had to learn on the fly, obviously, but you know, you see how close someone can get to you there, or pop up right by your feet, and how you fought them, the way and everything like that, right? It'd just be obviously everything on the fly. But I found it interesting that they I guess instituted it back like 2018, but it's going to be Corps wide now, where you know, every Marine is an infantryman, and every single one, that training is changing because of urban warfare, because of Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, I skimmed through that, and it's a lot more emphasis on close quarters combat. You know, a lot more emphasis on that.
Did you guys feel, though, like, it's funny we keep talking about how small it was? It's 2 miles by 7 miles. I mean, when we went up on top for our tanning and therapy sessions, I launched my drone and just did like a 360, and you could see the entire island that we were on. With that said, though, was there times, like, because for me, and I don't know if it's just because I was like so broke off, that it felt huge when you're in there. Like, I was like, are we ever gonna get out of this place? Like, where are we? Where's this guy taking us? Because he was wearing flip-flops too, you know, like.
Especially on the smaller island, like there was a point where we got separated and you and Neal started tracking footprints, and I was like, we're never gonna get off of here. We're gonna be here all
Yeah.
Like, we got pretty lost like very quickly just from the terrain.
Yeah, on Negabus, very quickly. They kind of, you know, the four of us were a little bit back, just kind of getting footage and video and stuff with people not around, because, you know, it was tough to do with all those people. And yeah, I remember we're walking and I stop and Tracie's right there with me, and we can't see. They're probably only like 20 meters in front of us, or wherever they were. And I remember seeing like footprints in the sand. I'm like, okay, this is the direction that they are.
Yeah. There's so few people that on tours go to Negabus, right? Those trails aren't as blazed over there.
No.
And it was so easy to get lost. I was actually watching The Shining couple yesterday, and it just made me think of Peleliu, you know, where it's like little Danny the kid, you know, he's talking to Scatman Crothers there initially, and Scatman's like, did anything come up about room 237? Don't go to room 237. You know, it was the Overlook Hotel, that whole place. But it made me think of Peleliu in the caves, right? It's just like you get in those caves and you kind of just going, oh my God, like, not, you know, the spiders that we saw, which were that was a lot of fun.
Dinner.
Nice.
Right,
Starship.
Tracie?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole ceiling started moving, and I wanted to get out of there pretty quickly.
But just
Yeah,
what a nightmare, right? Like, just
it was like Starship Trooper bugs, man. They were that big. They were just crawling. Because I had my flashlight on the phone, and I remember seeing a few of them on the walls. Like, oh, they're big. You know, it's some of the biggest spiders I think I've ever seen. And I noticed that the more light that I was shining everywhere else, there was more starting to like more. I was like, all right, these things are all up in here.
what?
And that's
Why
when I
is
went
the
right.
ceiling moving?
Right, yeah. Like what the ceiling at the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh, shine it up right above my head, and there's a nest, like a nest of these things, all these hands just moving around. Oh, all right, they're above our head. You feel that thing drop on you.
Dude.
They must have had a lot of weight to them, man.
And
imagine.
Shiro, we came out, and then Shiro thought it was dinner, right?
Yeah, he's like, a crab? A crab?
Was
You
it
found a crab? Yeah, I mean, we found no crabs, man. We found a spider, a mutant spider. I don't know. There's a bunch of them in there.
Spider.
Cave scorpions? Is that what they call them? Something like that. They were
Ugly,
big. I know that.
bastard spider is what it.
Yeah, it dwarfed anything I've ever seen here. I know that.
You know, another thing to me that was so great about the whole experience was, like, I feel like in typical deployment fashion, like, you know, you've got your highs, you've got your lows, you've got your adrenaline moments, you've got your emotional moments, you know, but then with the three of you, you know, to really be able to have like those fun moments too, right? Like, just you don't always get that with every group of people, you know. It was just such a great time, you know. This, all the little things that we keep talking about, the inside jokes, and man, that's just stuff that you can't, you know, because I don't know how many times I've been just like cracking up laughing, and, you know, Christina's like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, oh, so okay, there's this dog. And then it evolves into us eating turtle on a stick, and, you know, and she just doesn't really find the humor in that, so I'm just kind of laughing on my own.
No, I want to get a dog so I can just name it Whiplash. Whiplash.
I think that, oh my goodness, I think that moment of all of us running across the airfield was like my favorite, just bonding moment all together. And then watching it back, like all of our personalities came out within it. But yeah, that's like one of the highs, just as far as bonding and the team, was being able to do that with you guys.
Hey, nobody ran through that puddle. I mean, I wasn't the only one. All right.
I wasn't gonna run through it either because of my sandals. I didn't want to have wet sandals the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I didn't see it. I would have run through it.
I'm glad you did it with us, Tracie, because, you know, there's so much as we look back. Like, there's just so much of, like, I mean, we do got quite a few pictures with you as well, but, you know, you're that person behind the camera, you know, in so many situations. And so for you to be able to just kind of put the drone up there and run and do it with us, you know, that was, I think a lot of our probably like real bonding moments came from the drone, you know, came from the airfield, came from us laying and tanning and doing therapy on top of the hill.
We needed that, right?
Yeah.
It's like you say, you needed that moment of levity. Like, I'm sure it was with the other group, but they were on such a push to go and see so many things. And like I hope they had those moments as well. But I remember getting up to the top there, and was that couple, I forget the guy's name, if it was Ed maybe, or
Ed with the beard.
Yeah. And he just, you know, Craig or Scott were like, okay, time to go. And he's like, oh my God, you know, can we take a break?
I just got here.
Just, you know, I need a little breather. And yeah, I mean, it's so nice to have those moments where you take the air out a bit and just relax and, you know, just sort of feel where you are. And we got some great footage out of it.
Really got to, like, you really got to feel where you were whenever we were able to break away. I think you really got to feel where you were. Like, for example, like on Orange Beach, dude, I didn't think for a second that's how I would have reacted to it, you know, but we were getting some of the sand up, and I remember I was kneeling down and I was running the sand through my hand, and like instantly I thought about this sand that's in my hand right now. There was most likely a Marine or even a few Marines who fell on the sand right now. It's in my hands. And dude, it just, you know, the tears, man, I'm like, oh my God, like, dude, that's heavy. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, I think that was the beauty of what we were able to do, you know, to be able to really take it in. Cause I don't think it would have meant, it still would have meant a lot, and it still would have been impactful, I'm sure. But to actually, to be there with your thoughts, you know, your thoughts about what it meant to you, and it was heavy, man. I'm not gonna lie, I think Orange Beach and Hill 140 were the heaviest for me.
We were able to find that perfect balance of going places, seeing things, you know, and then spending time in the places where we needed to spend time. I think the four of us did like a really outstanding job of that, because, you know, it's cool to see the tracks and the different things and the 200 millimeter gun. And we didn't spend a ton of time there. We went up, we took our pictures and video, we checked it out. Cool. We moved on. And, you know, we really spent the time in the places. And I don't know if that's because of all of our attachment to those locations. Yeah, you know, with Andy having been in some of those places, and then our Marine brothers having been in those places, that allowed us to experience it differently. But it really was, I mean, it was just like the perfect trip. Like, it was like one of the greatest trips of probably like the greatest trip of my life. It was just perfect.
It really was. Really, I don't personally. I don't think it could have been done better. Honestly, it was incredible. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Even the hot turkey sandwich.
Dude,
oh man. Oh man. I'm so glad you remembered that.
I knew it the second I started eating it, man. I should have stopped, but I was hungry.
I heard Mike behind me. Do we really have to eat these hot turkey sandwiches and cheese right before we climb up into the friggin' ridges?
Dude, my stomach was not having it.
The rumble guts, man. The bubble guts.
Yeah, I was just so hungry. I mean, like, I'm gonna take my chances.
Thank God for Craig.
We hadn't slept either, because we had the flight got in at like 2 a.m. and then we had to be on the boat by like 8 o'clock, and yeah, just tired and hungry and hot.
Choking down diesel from the banana bus we were riding on there.
Yeah, that was a little that added to the nausea for sure.
God.
You guys, man, your delayed flight from Guam to Palau. I mean, I did get some sleep. I was like, I'm gonna get some sleep. I don't know when these people are gonna be in, and I like kept checking my phone, and the flight got delayed. It got delayed. Yeah, you guys didn't. I don't think you guys actually even got to the hotel to like what 3:30, something like that.
Yeah.
And then we had to turn around and be on the boat. We had to be on the boat at 8, departing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I think I was overtired, man. I'm glad I slept on the planes over. You know, otherwise it would have been rough. It would have been bad.
Did you guys go swimming there on Peleliu?
No.
Yeah.
No one swam.
No. Like, I really wanted to, but no time.
There wasn't time. There was a lot of things I wanted to do that there wasn't really time. But also, I think really the only place to really go swimming is that swimming hole. because the way the tides worked, even the beach area right there. So, Steven commented, I think, on either your post, Scott, or Neal's post about how they walked all the way out to that coral because they wanted to know just how far those tracks like had to come in.
Oh yeah.
And what we estimated, it was like 800 to 1,000 meters out, something like that.
Yeah.
And so if we really wanted to go swimming, we'd have to find like the beach, like maybe there's a beach on one of those sides of the island that's actually good for swimming, but just the water wasn't really even deep enough.
Not that area, where after the ceremony and the saltwater crocs are, and the one Thai tourist who chose the wrong place to swim.
Yeah.
They're, rest in peace. But like time wise, and the time was, it's like it stopped. I mean, you're tired from doing anything, but it felt for me like it stopped there. And I didn't, TV or anything like that or anything else, like, and wasn't no luxury for sure. I never even thought of it really, like just, where's the jacuzzi, or make jokes about it or something like that. But it was just the setting that we had was perfect. And Madam Q, our host there at the ranch, she was wonderful. I thought her food smelled so great. I was like, man, is she gonna cook us a meal or something? Like, do we get meals here?
She cooked the Japanese people a meal.
Yeah.
Japanese guests. Yeah.
Oh.
I went in there one morning for coffee and they just had breakfast. So.
Oh.
Are they the same people that we went to their restaurant? They had their meals were already there for them. That just giant, like 20-person party, and their plates were getting handed out. There are empty chairs everywhere. It's like, oh man, look.
The Japanese people.
Yeah. What happened to ours?
They were spending.
And that was such a surreal moment too, right? Like, it couldn't have been any more perfect. This half was Japanese, this half was Marines, like, and they're having dinner 80 years later, like, to the night before the beach landing.
Yeah,
crazy.
That was wild, man.
That'd have been wild if the commandant made it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to write him a letter.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Come on, dude. Oh, there was weather problems. Hey, it's in our song. Any climb or place, buddy, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
No, sir. Get with it, sir.
He delegated to Knuckles.
Yeah.
I love that, the 2-star general. Hey, Knuckles.
Yeah.
Oh man, you should have told me that.
You know what? Sometimes though, and maybe this is like, I don't know, a weird part of me. A guy do it. I thought he should have absolutely been there. Sure. But sometimes not having, sometimes you can have people that are so big that show up that they take away from the moment. And, that moment shouldn't have been about generals or lieutenant colonels, commandants. Like, that moment was to be about the people that fought there. And I think that, sometimes that can get lost. And I think the ceremony actually did a great job of not letting that get lost.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You could see afterwards, man. We were all kind of standing around, afterwards, hanging out and just talking with, various, people. And I remember looking over just past your shoulder, Mike, and there was a Japanese lady, a Palauan lady, and an American lady, all just talking, and all of them were crying. Apparently, both sides lost somebody in the battle, and here they are 80 years later at the ceremony, and to share something like that, man, it was jaw dropping, to say the least.
Yeah. So I mean, how many people are going to make that trek?
It's tough.
Battlefield, right? Or it's easier to get to Saipan or Tinian. Obviously Guam. There's 500 people maybe that live on Peleliu. It's so unique to be able to get there, to get to that type of. battlefield. If you're like history buff or tour, you want to tour historical sites. I mean, that doesn't get much more remote than that.
I mean, how difficult it is, because I mean, on our way back on the ferry, that 3-hour ferry, there was a couple of kids who were going to school back to Karora, right? And they had to take a 3-hour ferry to get to school. You can't even fly into Peleliu. You got to take a speedboat or a ferry from one of the main islands. It's just wild, man.
Yeah, you have to really want to go there to get out there. I mean, it's out there for sure. And it was beautiful to see, so many people come for that commemoration for the 80th all these years later.
Yeah. And how beautiful are those people, and welcoming and warm and giving. And, I hope to get back. I'd like to plan to get back. It's not a place, one and done. I'd love to spend more time there. Do whatever I can to be there for as long as I can. And I just, as much as went on there, obviously, but I said this to y'all, I loved being there. Loved it.
Well, that's what I told a couple of the guys that seen it, and you guys said it perfectly. You have got to want to be there. Like, that's not a place that you're just like, let's go to Peleliu this weekend, right? Like, it takes logistics. Like, I mean, God, man, I mean, what it took, just getting to LA. And it's so funny because I go and check in for China Air at their international terminal there at the end, I guess on the west side of the airport. And then Neal texts me, just landed. He's in the terminal for Delta. And so we meet like right in between, because I thought that California's Total Wine and More would have my cigars. Apparently they don't. Thank God there was a Total Wine and More in Pensacola on the way to the airport Neal was going to. So we said, what's up? Snapped a picture, passed off the cigars. And I mean, then my trip I felt like wasn't too terrible, because it was just, LA, Taiwan, Palau. Whereas you guys had to do the into Honolulu, then from Honolulu to Guam, then from Guam, there was just like a little island hopping that had to happen. And then there was that typhoon that went through that, delayed your guys' flight. And it's not an easy place to get to. But man, I think, and that's one of the things that adds to how special of a trip that it was.
Even going to the doctor to figure out what's going on with me, and had to go twice, ask for antibiotics. But the guy's like, well, maybe we'll get the office to call you in a few days and see how your ear's doing. And if it's not cleared up, I'll get you an appointment with an infectious disease specialist. I'm sure where you've been, I mean, they'd love this to examine you. And I'm like, God dang, you just give me some antibiotics. But, you tell people Peleliu or even Karora or Palau, they're like, where?
Yeah.
To the right of the Philippines, if you're looking at them, to the right and up a bit, the Marion, and they just have no idea. But, there's this massive airfield there, and I think people got to think about that, is like why this airfield is being and has been rebuilt to withstand landing from a heavy bomber. There are, and what's going on all around there, like, kind of wake up, because it's not like the Corps or the U.S. is, let's just have a runway for people to visit. You know what I mean? You guys all know, and to be able to kind of tell that story as well, because these poor people in that area, again, are a pawn in the middle of two global superpowers. And, for them, they're like, well, it's like in Guam, similarly, the build up there. And they're like, we've been occupied. I think it was the governor's assistant saying, he was saying to me, he's like, we've been occupied for so long in our history. We know how to live with it, which is sad, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a only 4-hour flight south of China.
Yeah.
So,
and people, and I think anyone listening, if you want to go and
go now,
because Whiplash is probably still there. We hope.
Hope so.
We hope with.
Did we talk about who Whiplash is and how we met him?
Yeah, that.
Go ahead, Tracie. Go ahead.
Well, I was driving and there's all these stray dogs and one just out of nowhere leaps out and starts chasing the car. And I'm trying to not hit it, but I also like, trying to keep the car straight. But yeah, he chased us down the road and got the name Whiplash.
It looked like Petey from Little Rascals, but just a mean SOB, or it just didn't like vehicles. Because I saw it chase the banana truck taking the other tour group. Yeah, I'm like, look at that dog just chasing, like really going after it. And I mean, it threatened, But if anyone knows MASH, and the one that Whiplash Wang throws himself in front of a Jeep in order to get money from the Americans, this is what this dog reminded me of. It was going to throw himself in front of the car. You stop, and then you feed it, and it farts off again. But it turns out that that's Connie's dog.
Oh, what? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, it was.
Yeah. I forget its name, but the when we went to the restaurant the last night and had that meal, and her cat was there, and she's like, "Oh, that's I forget the name, but it's the name of the fruit, dragon fruit."
Oh, the dragon fruit
in the Palau language. So Des named it the cat that, right? And then the dog came up, and I'm like, "Is that? I think that's Whiplash." I think that's Whip.
I mean, if I don't know if Tracie wouldn't have made that, quick jerk to the left, I feel like Whip would have been Whip on a stick, like no question.
Oh yeah, they would cart it off, and food is scarce there. So
yeah,
it's so funny, man. I was sitting behind Tracie, and I saw him coming, and it was like slow motion, but so fast at the same time. It was like, oh, there's the dog. It's about to get run over. Nope, just avoided him. Oh, that was good. That was good.
So let's want to go around everybody's. Let's like maybe most emotional, and then there was a lot of really humorous moments too. Like top emotional, top humorous moment. If anybody wants to start that.
Hang on, Scotty. Ladies first, Tracie.
Ma'am, Tracie.
Oh man. As far as humor, I feel like every 10 minutes there was something that we were poking fun at, mostly at Scott's expense, but no, one of my favorite humorous moments though is we're about to run across that incredible historic airfield, and I'm thinking about Captain Haldane and what they would have been thinking before they crossed it, and I just hear Scott go, he had his new shoes on, and he goes, I don't want to step in that puddle. I'm like, do you think that's what Haldane was thinking before he ran across it? And then as far as emotions, especially from the Guam side, like just witnessing Al, seeing all of these things again for the first time in 8 years and seeing the reception that he had, that for me was like the most precious moments is having, him return to this place that's now a second home as a liberator. And then so many different, sorry for the music, y'all. So many different things on Peleliu, and just the reception from the people and getting that time with the locals. I think for me, it was really some of the best moments.
Yeah, the human experience of it, for sure.
Yeah, for me, oh man, yeah, so much, so many humorous moments. I mean, like all the time. My fever may have contributed to that, but yeah, up on the upper patio, Walt's Ridge there, and that whole episode, and my Canadian starfish, Neal giving me therapy. I was just jealous that Tracie found shade and she was halfway under the bench, and it's just my big fat head that would. I got my head underneath it sideways, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I can do this, and I just cleared it. I'm staying there. And that whole episode, and obviously all the things related to Andy and doing the Pacific and then everything I thought and how long it had taken. But leaving and talking to David, Steve's friend.
The Marine?
Was David the Marine?
He had glasses, kind of a
Older.
taller, older Vietnam vet. Yeah.
Did he? He always wore shades, but anyway, I think was on there with Steve as well, right?
Yeah. They actually met when Steve was there starting the clearing expedition. David was there. They ran into each other at the jungle. Steve said he needed a medic. David said, "What kind of medic?" He's like, "Any kind of medic. We just need to have a medic on, because we're doing UXO clearing and all of that." David went and became a medic and came back. And then he was their medic the rest of the time. Like, he lived there for 10 years also.
And he just, I think maybe was at the barbecue, but he's like, it's a short little conversation. Then he's just looking at me and he says, this place really affects people. It really affects people. Like you really, I forget how he fit. I don't, it was like Buddha telling me one of the truths of life that was wrapped in a mystery and an enigma, but I understood it. Like I couldn't repeat what he said at all, but it seemed like Yoda telling me something about what I just experienced, and I felt it. I'm like, yeah, man, it's so, and I really, really felt it. I really felt what he said, and because you would never look at that island, the history, or go there and think, okay, this is what I'm going to get out of it. And I did. I mean, it'll be better maybe at some point later to put it into words, but it's so moving.
You won't, because he did the same thing to me.
Did he?
On the plane? Because, I'll share the story for everybody who's listening. So Steve Ballinger is Royal Army, and he led, like, they cleared over 66,000 unexploded ordnance, UXOs, on that island. His wife, Cassandra, who's also an amazing human being, she's Australian. She raised the capital for the nonprofit to do those things. And then you had David, who was a Vietnam vet Marine, and then his brother Dan was there also. And I was just walking by a little cafe near our gate in Taiwan. Lady flagged me in. I got a really awesome coffee. And then I heard them talking about Peleliu. And so I went over and hey, sit down. And so that's how I met them. And then we all hung together the rest of the way through customs. And we're about an hour out. We're starting our descent. And David just comes and sits next to me on the plane. Like I'm just watching a movie or something. He just comes and sits down next to me and then starts the Buddha stuff. Right. And I can't even tell you what he said, but like, I can't repeat what he said, but it was like, everyone's going to experience this differently. It's going to affect you in a way that you never thought possible. It'll affect everybody differently. Everybody's unique own experiences. Yeah, very Buddha like advice as we were coming in to Palau.
Wow.
Yeah, that's David, man. It's
deep. David, yeah, because he initially didn't say all that much.
No, he don't say shit.
And I thought he was got, he's like, okay, the Vietnam vet, and he'd been there for long. I get that occasionally, where one or two people in the military would be like, you're just a fucking actor in the show, like, what the hell is this guy kind of know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Occasionally sort of get that, and I understand it, but I don't pretend to know or be any of that. He was just quiet and everything, but at the end, I talked to him a bit in between, but he laid that on me. I was like, dude, that's so heavy. That's like, wow, this and my fever, my brain, it's going to explode.
Well, and that's how it happened when I sat down to have coffee with them. I'm sitting next to him. It's him, Dan, Steve, and Cassandra. And, very, very talkative, Scott or Steve and Cassandra, so talkative, very lively. And I felt like David like fucking hated me. Like I felt like I was intruding. No, I felt like I was intruding on their little foursome friendship. I was like the fifth wheel or something. And so I just tried to kind of stay quiet, stay out of the way. And then all of a sudden, Broop pops down next to me on the plane and just opens up.
And he probably doesn't do that with everyone. He's just sizing you up. Not that he thinks he's like, do I lay the wisdom on him? Do I
Do I bestow this?
bestow the wisdom upon the student? Will he get it or not? Because he probably doesn't do that with everybody.
Yeah. No, you're right. He probably is just sizing you up.
This guy needs it.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay it on him.
Yeah, here I come.
Neal, your turn.
Yeah, at your expense, Scotty. My favorite humorous moment definitely was the therapy session with your head being covered by the step. And I'm laying there. It's the funniest picture ever. Is that I'm laying there, kind of like,
Tell me more, Scotty.
Yeah, just let it out. And then even better is you can hear you on one of the videos. They just fucking ignored me.
Yeah,
they're just talking about your terrible treatment on the set of Pacific, being ignored by all the Marines and
my 4-day boot camp.
They just ignored me.
Marine.
It was so sad, man. Like I was shedding some tears listening. My heart was breaking into a million pieces.
Oh, that's funny.
Definitely Orange Beach was the most emotional and the heaviest, man. Just to again to just kneel down and onto that sand and look at it just in my hands and knowing what happened there just 80 years ago was like, man, I just there was no words, man. They just came out of my eyes is what it was, and I didn't expect it at all. But that was by far, I think, the heaviest and most impactful place and moment was just being there for those few minutes on Orange Beach.
Well, we got to go back.
Yeah. No, we definitely have to go back. One of the funniest parts about when we were up there is whenever Scott was like, yeah, they never listened to me. And then it was so funny because Tracie was like, how long was your boot camp again? And he's like, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like just that, see, this like that every time I listen to that video, that cracks me up so much. Like that being, man, like that's probably one of my most fond moments was the four of us being up there, because that was like, if you took 4 Marines that, well, I mean, there's videos when we would go through and clear cities, and then we would end up, I don't know if you saw the video, I think Cook did a video with Myri and Mercedes. I'll try to re-find that one when you guys were going through city clearing, and they were just up there like bullshitting, just raw, real, kind of laughing, telling stories. I think it might have been Cook's birthday, and then all of a sudden, like, they had to start, gunfire opens up and stuff. But when I was up there with the 4 of y'all, that almost like made me feel like I was back in the Marine Corps again. Just with that camaraderie of that small group. With my job, I usually operated in 4-man teams, so being like in that 4-person team with the 4 of you guys, like it was funny. There was a lot of funny things that happened up there. Whenever you start doing the flutter kicks, and then Tracie's just like, your shorts are getting shorter every time. Like that whole video, that whole moment just cracked me up, man. It was just one of those.
It wasn't. I was too tired to do leg raises, so it was just like kicking the lower half up. It's like that's all I got.
It was just like,
you were like, I can.
While
only do
Neal's next to you doing like 30 push-ups and
Neal's hammering out the push-ups, and I'm like, oh, my shorts are riding up on me.
Scott's like, I can only do this for one more day. Like,
yeah, I only got one more day in me.
I got one more day in me.
Yeah.
That was
but
good.
had we been on the bigger tour, we wouldn't have had.
No.
We wouldn't have had that.
That one.
It's better to have those smaller groups and do it like that, and we're all kind of exhausted, but it's a beautiful day and it's wonderful to be there, and then you just your guards are down, obviously, and make fun of each other like you would, right?
Right, because like when you're around people and trust, which is funny because it's only like really that's only what the third time Neal and I've ever hung out, and then it's only the second time we all ever hung out. Josh Baton even said something similar when we hung out in LA. He's like, I've never hung out with people I did an interview with.
Right.
He's like, I've done podcasts, I've done interviews, I've never hung out with them. He's like, I just feel like you guys are just bros, like hell, he let fucking Neal stay at his house.
Yeah.
It's so you guys really are just such an incredible group of people. Even Sylvester, when I hung out with him on Tuesday, I hadn't seen him 20 years since we got back from Afghanistan in 2004. And he was like, what's Gibson like? He says like in his DI voice, what's that fucking Gibson fuck like? Yeah, dog on Gibson. Like, yeah, man, no, he's the real deal. He's a good dude. And I mean, the things that you guys do, the stuff, the way that you all are, and we can attest to this, the way that you all are on social media and the stuff that you do and everything, or the way that you guys are when the cameras aren't rolling. And, it's just couldn't have asked for probably a better group of people to share that experience with. I think my most emotional moment. So if they wouldn't have gave us the warning that they were going to play taps.
Oh gosh, dude. Yeah.
Cause like,
oh man,
I started tearing up and shaking just in anticipation for it. But then they played that damn song so long before taps. Like I was prepared for it. So then they did taps and I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Cause like, I'm already thinking I'm going to have to get up. I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to get away from I'm like having like a little meltdown right there in my chair, thinking about like, where am I going to go? How am I going to get out of here? Like I start like fucking panicking. And then fortunately they played that other little song long enough. I didn't have to do anything with it. Because, that's a tough song, man. I mean, we, like when we lost people over in Iraq and Afghanistan and, we had services there. We had services back here in the States. Man, that just, it's, when somebody, and you always think about them no matter like what context it's in, even if it's for those guys. And then you think about the guys that survived. You think about Sledge and Bergie and all those guys that survived, and but they're brothers, and like we know what that feels like. That song just that it's kind of fucking me up more now than it did then because I was able to prepare for it. But and then whenever I got those 4 coins and we were able to leave those coins on that cross headstone, that was a very like emotional, like real moment for me as well. Cause that was right there. That was what at White Beach, right? That we were able to do that. Yeah,
it was like you said, man. Like you didn't keep any change, but you just happened to have those 4 coins, and
every time I told them keep the change, and then that morning I was just like, I just took it and didn't even think about it, and then as we're walking back past that cross, it dawned on me I've got 4 coins that we can leave here that we came and visited these guys.
That little figurine, man, that got me too. That there was something about that little figurine that got me, dude. I don't know what it was, but it was peaceful, It was something. I if I had to describe it in one word, it was peaceful, It was heavy, man. It was heavy. It had its heavy moments, man. But I think in a very good like way of like memorializing, like that kind of a heavy. It's a very rare experience, And
I think that, I like to think that like looking down, it's so weird because the way that people look at things and view the things that you do, like I'm up there, I took my shirt off, I'm tanning, and I'm sure you're going to have people that are going to look at that and be like, what a disrespectful fuck. But then I like to think that, you take those same boys that landed on that beach, those 18, 19, 20-year-old Marines, to do the same thing. I kind of wanted in a weird way to live it for them. And, Scott, you brought up something that I didn't even think about when you were talking about when you stood there and tried to look at on Orange Beach, look at it through Andy's life as if he had lived and came back to that spot. And I guess kind of like when I went up to that Bloody Nose Ridge, I was trying to think if like, you know, if I was one of those guys and came back, you know, and just to kind of be able to do those Marine things, you know, like we would sneak off to the rooftop of the barracks during the workday and like tan and just the stupid shit we would do. People would find places to tan in Iraq and, you know, like that was a big thing. I don't know why. Like, why did we always try to find places to go tanning? I have no clue. But like that's like a Marine thing that you do when you're on deployment is like, where can we go tan? You know?
A nice rooftop.
Yeah. Just find a place to lay in the sun for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I didn't obviously, you know, I've been asked in interviews about, did you, you know, more appreciation for what people went through in the war or playing a Marine, and it was like, yeah, but I, you know, you got to you know, you're talking about taps and losing people. I don't have any experience with that, and I'm grateful, you know, that I didn't, and that I didn't go through that. And I can't, you know, I can imagine what you feel, but I can't feel it. You know, I can sympathize. I can't really empathize. You know, and I would never assume that, you know, that I was right there beside you, and I was feeling that from you, and that was very special for me. You know, it was an honor to be there with you guys, Marines, and Ma'am Tracie, for everything she did there for us, and the amazing images she took and videos to come. Really, really blessing for me. I thank you all so much.
Yeah, it definitely made a huge difference just being there. Neal, I remember us talking on Najibas and just kind of seeing it through the perspective of the legacy of, you know, the Marines that served there from you guys. It was really powerful to be there with you.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I'm kind of speechless, you know, with how incredible it was, and I can't say it enough. You know, thank you guys for, you know, having us, and you know, it's something I'll take with me for the rest of my days. You know, I'll never forget it. I'll always be appreciative, and I just thank you. You know.
And it was like such, there's
not-
a ton of little things too that was such a privilege on our parts to be able to share with you guys. Like, you know, and the fact that you guys even had the curiosity and asked the questions that you asked. And it's the little things, it's the littlest things. I've shared these stories, you know, with a lot of the guys. And, it, you know, like Scott, it might not mean anything to you, but I remember when we were at the ceremony and like you were kind of asking me about the ranks and something, you know, that one's gold, that one's silver. And then I remember you asking like, well, what about the guys that aren't wearing ranks? And I was like, oh, they're wearing ranks. You just can't see that shit. And in the Marine Corps community, it's just this joke that because when you see someone, you have to give them the greeting of the day. So, and I was thinking about it last night. It was that movie, We Were Soldiers. Remember when he always fucked up the greeting of the day to the first sergeant?
All right.
Right. So, and he knew who he was. So imagine you're walking past this dude and there's all this black and you, what's the rank? Like you have no idea what they are. And you're like, good morning, Mr. Sergeant. Like you just try to like, you know, so I was telling them about how you were asking me and like, they got a kick out of it. You know, we get a kick out. It's just the littlest things, man, that, you know, like every little moment that we had there, it just, it stayed with me. And I don't know about you guys, but at least for the first week I was back, like every dream was about Peleliu. You know, it's like, what it's just, it was incredible. And, you know, thank you guys again for the invitation and allowing us to be a part of that experience with the two of you. It was truly awesome.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
So
We'll get back. We'll get back. You might you might not be invited the next time, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing.
You're invited.
Invite me if you're going.
Yeah, I'd love to know how that call went with Tracie. Like when Reg woke up the next morning and it's like,
what did you do?
I invited these
I thought
two
he
guys.
knew y'all. I thought he had been friends with y'all for years. I had no clue that you had never met. I'm like, yeah, bring him. It's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, we're coming along.
I was chatting to these two asshole Marines. I invited them to Peleliu.
Yeah, you sons of bitches, you motherfuckers. We're going to Peleliu.
Well, even I want to say when
Couldn't
the
have done it without
invitation was extended, I don't even think so. Neal and I like walked past each other once, probably at 3-6. I was on my way out. He was on his way in. And we never hung out, didn't really know who each other were. And so I want to say that even when you invited us to Peleliu, when that invitation came, I don't think him and I had hung out yet. I don't think we had made the LA trip. So not only had none of us really knew each other outside of the podcast and like texting every day. Neal and I didn't really even know each other. I mean, he could have been, a serial killer. Who knows?
Yeah, Tracie and I could have been buried on Peleliu.
Yeah.
With old
who the hell? I mean, who the hell willingly carries around, extra packs on their backs through the ridges and on Peleliu, man?
Not me, dude.
Why is Neal carrying a shovel?
Yeah, they say to bring e-tools on this trip. What is this?
Yeah. Well, I guess we're doing this again tomorrow. I haven't seen any invitations, or is there a time, Tracie? Like, you're the one that keeps track of all that.
I don't know. I'll have to ask Taco.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, Taco.
Yeah. So we got Taco Bell tomorrow. And we'll do a recap too.
Yeah. Well, there's still fresh stories to tell.
Dude, we literally could go on forever if we were trying to cover every single thing that happened. It could be a 5-hour ordeal. But yeah, it was great. I'm sure people, a lot of people appreciate hearing the stories, and it was great. I know I appreciate seeing you guys again and just re-talking everything. It's been a blast. So I guess Tracie. Well, I think we're going to see each other at Charlie's, right? She just froze.
Yeah, it's November 30th is his celebration of life.
It's the 30th, not the 10th.
Yeah, 30th. It just got updated.
Okay, good to know. Good thing I didn't buy my plane ticket yet. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be there for that. And again, thanks guys for everything. And thanks for taking some time out of your Saturday to jump on, and we'll reconvene tomorrow with Taco.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thanks for hosting there, Dirty Mike.
Anytime. Dirty Mike and the boys with special guest, ma'am Tracie.
Thank you. I feel like you need to get those flip flops framed from Peleliu.
I'm never throwing those away for sure. Like those are.
Dude, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
you definitely do that. Have that up on the wall, man.
A little shadow box,
Yeah.
With my my adventure shirt from Peleliu. Got that on.
You got a Peleliu shadow box.
Yep. Hell yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you guys again. It's always a pleasure. And for everybody listening, that's our recap of Peleliu. So we hope you all enjoyed it. We're gonna get this next season of Tales from the Core rolling, doing more lives and putting these up on YouTube. So I'll send out the links. We'll also send out links to Beyond the Call for Tracie's organization, and we'll get some, charity requests for my birthday and make your donations there. And I guess here soon we'll be rolling out some sales of some Peleliu sand from White Orange and Nigibus, and help raise some money for an incredible organization. So
wonderful.
Until next time, Semper Fi.